Chapter 7. Plenty of time for Nami later. Oh, I see. Sky Sovereign. That really is a cool title. Shishishi. Luffy beamed after hearing Rowen's explanation about the epithet. Becoming the Pirate King was Luffy's entire goal for setting out to sea. Having his very first crewmate acknowledge his dream so strongly naturally made Luffy incredibly happy. Detected increase in bond with equipping target. Trait equipping progress increased. Seeing the notification only he could see, Rowen's eyes gleamed. Just as I thought. There are ways to speed up the trait equipping process. Bonds, huh? Very fitting for this kind of world. Noticing the significant jump in the progress bar for superhuman physique, deep purple, and the fact that the sun god, apex gold, bar had finally started moving, Rowen allowed himself a small smile. Choosing the epithet Sky Sovereign wasn't just because it fit the One Piece world and appealed to Rowen's own aesthetic sensibilities from Earth. More importantly, using the reasoning behind the title was Rowen's way of testing the trait equipping speed. Luffy's dream was to become Pirate King. Rowen's explanation naturally strengthened their connection. And since Luffy was the target for equipping traits, Rowen needed to test if improving their relationship would accelerate the process. Now, it seemed clear that it worked. Worth making that slightly dramatic speech. Rowen scanned the sky but didn't spot any news coup birds. Then again, in the One Piece world, news coups were practically omnipresent. Rowen, who hadn't awakened observation haki yet, couldn't pinpoint their exact location anyway. But he'd know soon enough from the next news report whether his chosen epithet had spread across the seas. After all, when it came to Conqueror's Haki, the president of the World Economic News Agency, Morgans, definitely knew its significance. Despite some later complaints about too many Conqueror's Haki users appearing in the New World, if you actually counted, fewer than 20 individuals in the entire original story were confirmed to possess it. And those weren't even all active in the same era. Possessing Conqueror's Haki truly meant having the disposition of a king, because awakening Conquerors virtually guaranteed the ability to learn both observation and armament haki, and ensure the user could train their haki to a reasonably high level at minimum. In other words, simply awakening Conqueror's haki meant the user inherently possessed the potential for at least warlord-level strength. For a Conqueror's Haki user to emerge in the East Blue, that news definitely had enough weight for Morgans to make a story out of it. Anyway, now that he'd joined the main crew, Luffy's powerful connections, special, trait meant Rowen didn't need to worry too much about attracting unbeatable pirate or marine pursuit before he was strong enough. So, there was no real need for Rowen to keep a low profile. That concept of disposition or presence mentioned in the story was likely a crucial factor in haki strength. Therefore, acting humbly or staying low-key was probably detrimental for aspiring powerhouses in the One Piece world. Look at Blackbeard, hiding his ambition on Whitebeard's ship before getting the dark fruit. Because he played the part of harmless underling for too long, his own kingly disposition withered, to the point where he actually considered just living out his days on Whitebeard's ship. In the One Piece power system, pretending to be weak to ambush the strong, playing the pig to eat the tiger, ultimately just turned you into a real pig. Only by building a fearsome reputation, using the blood of other strong opponents as stepping stones, could one reach the pinnacle of this world. All right, we took care of these guys. Let's hurry up and find a boat so we can set sail again. Luffy grinned, looking at the Alvida pirates littering the deck. Swish! Boom! 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 Just as Luffy finished speaking, cannonballs slammed into the deck of Alvida's pirate ship. In the distance, marine warships were rapidly approaching. Marines! As pirates, we gotta make a quick getaway. Let's go, Rowen! Luffy exclaimed. He was certainly familiar with marine ships. His own grandpa commanded vessels much larger than these. Got it. Rowen smirked slightly. He had no intention of plundering Alvida's super thick-skin trait. Fat held absolutely zero interest for him. Phew, what a haul, Nami muttered, having successfully looted all of the Alvida pirates' treasure. She loaded the heavy sacks onto a small boat. Spotting the approaching marine warships in the distance, Nami prepared to make her own escape. Whoosh! Splash! Just then, a small lifeboat launched itself off the deck of the hijacked liner and crashed into the scene nearby, sending up a wave. Whoa! Nami shielded herself from the spray and looked over. On board the lifeboat were the boy in the straw hat and a familiar figure. Why, you're... Nami's eyes widened. Isn't that the guy from the liner earlier? Looks like the young lady thief achieved her goal, Rowen commented with a smile, observing Nami, now out of her dress and in her thief attire, clutching the bags filled with Alvida's treasure. Nami instinctively hugged the treasure sacks tighter. You know her, Rowen? Luffy asked curiously. We crossed paths briefly, Rowen replied casually. Okay, but we gotta hurry up and get out of here, Luffy shouted, seeing the marine ships getting closer. Set sail. Well then, until we meet again, Miss Thief. My name's Rowen, Rowen said, looking at Nami. He knew this wasn't the time for extended conversation. Besides, Nami's next destination was the same as theirs. Pushing too hard now might backfire. Without waiting for Nami's reply, Rowen used his navigation, white trait to steer the small boat, quickly heading away from the approaching marine vessels. Rowen, Nami murmured the name, then quickly steered her own boat away, using her superior navigation skills. As for Rowen's, until we meet again, Nami didn't pay it much mind. The sea's enormous. What are the chances of running into him again? Ha, that was fun. Luffy laughed heartily after they had completely lost the marine warships. Hey, Rowen, that pirate hunter the rude old lady mentioned. Do you know anything about him? Luffy asked. I've heard the name. Supposedly a crazy strong swordsman. They call him a demon in human form, Rowen replied with a smile. A demon? Sounds tough. Luffy grinned excitedly. What? Interested in him? Rowen asked, feigning ignorance. Koby, that disgusting clown, had been removed from the equation by Rowen. So, regarding Zoro, Rowen himself would need to nudge the plot forward. But without Koby around, Rowen didn't mind playing the role of plot mover for a bit. I want to be king of the pirates, so I gotta go to the Grand Line. Besides you, Rowen, I need more strong crewmates. If that guy's any good, I want to ask him to join. Luffy declared with his trademark grin. Well then, let's go check him out. I hear he's currently in Shellstown, Rowen said, pulling out a sea chart he had prepared earlier. He'd acquired the chart from the luxury liner. All right, course set. Let's go, Rowen. Luffy was fired up. Roger that. Rowen smirked, equally interested. Roronoa Zoro. I wonder what kind of traits worth equipping the man known as the true heart of the Straw Hat crew possesses. Chapter 8, Making the Stagnant Seas Boil Again. World Economic News Agency Headquarters. News. Isn't there any major news worth reporting? Morgans, the president of the World Economic News Agency, who usually appeared in his bird fruit model, albatross hybrid form, was extremely agitated right now. Damn this balance. Damn the world government. Damn the 7 warlords. Morgans roared, slamming his fist, wing, on the desk. Ever since this cursed warlord system was fully established, creating the so-called 3 great powers balance between Marine headquarters, the 7 warlords, and the 4 emperors, the number of significant news stories hadn't just declined. It had practically vanished. Most of the warlords were busy managing their own pirate kingdoms. Granted legitimate plunder rights by the world government, the Marines wouldn't pursue them, and the 4 emperors stayed within their territories in the New World. The Marines wouldn't dare rashly start a war with forces like them either. So, day to day, the Marines mostly just chased small fry pirates who weren't worth mentioning. The big-name pirates with high bounties either became warlords, sought protection under an emperor, or simply vanished from the world stage, living anonymously. This damn tranquil sea was disgustingly dull. That great treasure, the One Piece, how many pirates were still truly chasing it, still holding on to that dream? Morgans was sick and tired of these days without any major news. More news coming in? East Blue. Is there actually news from the weakest sea that's worth my personal attention? Seeing the incoming data and images, Morgan's interest was instantly piqued when he noted the location. As the world's largest news organization, the World Economic News Agency had an incredibly vast structure. To ensure no major news was missed, Morgans had operatives stationed everywhere, responsible for capturing scoops. While most were deployed along the Grand Line, there were operatives in the Four Blues as well. When an operative in the Four Blues captured something newsworthy, it would go through layers of review, moving up the chain of command. For this news to reach his desk meant that after multiple levels of scrutiny, this report from the East Blue was deemed worthy of the personal attention of the World Economic News Agency president himself. This is... Morgans leaped to his feet as he saw the power unleashed by the young man, calling himself Sky Sovereign Rowen in the submitted materials. The sequence of numerous photographs combined with the written report created an effect similar to watching a video. Conqueror's Hockey. No doubt about it. That's Conqueror's Hockey. Morgans felt every cell in his body buzz with excitement. After stagnating for so long, these dull seas had finally produced a newcomer possessing the disposition of a king. The man who will stand above all, calling himself Sky's sovereign. What arrogance! Ha ha ha! Arrogance is good. That's what makes it newsworthy. Morgans burst out laughing. If some ignorant fool who didn't know their place made such a claim and called themselves Sky Sovereign, Morgans would just scoff. Idiots like that popped up every year on these seas, oblivious to their own mortality. But when someone possessing Conqueror's Hockey said it, especially a man so young who could already control it with precision, that was the ambition and disposition of a true king. That was worth reporting. No, this deserved the front page. A massive scoop. The last newcomer who had excited him this much was Fire Fist Portgas Ace, the Flare Fruit user who had since joined the Whitebeard Pirates and become their second division commander. Back then, Morgans had harvested quite a few juicy stories from Fire Fist Ace. But damn it, Ace ended up getting recruited by Whitebeard, and the news stream dried up. After that, the seas became disgustingly quiet again. But now, Morgan stared at Rowan's photo, his eyes practically glowing. Conqueror's Hockey, and from such a young newcomer who could already control it precisely. Plus, such blatant arrogance. This was even more sensational, more worthy of extensive coverage than Fire Fist Ace had been initially, and there was more worth reporting. Morgans looked at the name provided in the self-introduction of the kid wearing the straw hat in the report. Monkey D. Luffy, captain of the crew Sky Sovereign Rowen joined. Monkey D. Ha ha ha. A strange, almost predatory grin spread across Morgan's beak. As the head of the World Economic News Agency, Morgans was all too familiar with that surname. Was it that the family name of the marine hero, Monkey D., Garp, and the revolutionary leader, Monkey D. Dragon? Judging by age, this Straw Hat Kid had to be Dragon's son, Garp's grandson. That old geezer Garp. His son becomes the leader of the revolutionaries, and now his grandson sets out to sea as a pirate? And this grandson has a crewmate who awakened Conqueror's Hockey and calls himself Sky Sovereign. Isn't that deliberately mirroring the epithet of the Pirate King's right hand, the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh? Is this kid aiming to become the next Pirate King? The grandson of marine hero Monkey D. Garp wants to become the Pirate King? This family, all 3 generations, was certainly interesting. There was so much material here. Absolutely worth extensive coverage. Let's hold off on reporting about the Straw Hat Kid for now. The first priority is Rowen. You eat one bite at a time. Big news should be released piece by piece. Morgans had been starved for excitement for far too long. Now that he'd finally snagged a major story, and one that looked like it could provide continuous, developing reports, he needed to grip it tightly and milk it for all it's worth. Compared to the sheer impact of Conqueror's Hockey, the Straw Hat Kid's currently demonstrated power wasn't eye-catching enough yet. What was the most important thing in news? Grabbing attention instantly. And what could possibly grab more attention than a newcomer claiming he'll stand above all, calling himself Sky Sovereign, and possessing Conqueror's Hockey? Once he had the world's eyes fixed on this, he could follow up with ongoing reports about the crew. Besides, with the Monkey D., Name involved, Morgans didn't have to worry too much that excessive hype might attract disaster and get the crew wiped out prematurely, leaving him with no future stories. Garp wouldn't let that happen easily. This kind of news, one he could trumpet loudly and without reservation. He hadn't encountered anything like it in far too long. Morgan's eyes gleamed with avarice. Get this photo distributed worldwide. Spread the name Sky Sovereign Rowen across the globe. Tell all those rotten trash on these seas, those who've lost their dreams and are practically decaying, that a new king is about to be born. These stagnant waters are finally going to boil again. Ha ha ha! Morgans roared with laughter. On his desk lay a close-up photo of Rowen. In it, Rowen's eyes blazed with overwhelming power, captured at the very instant he unleashed his conqueror's haki. Soon, the front-page story featuring Rowen was printed. Beneath the close-up photo of Rowen, the headline screamed in bold type, "I will stand above all." Of course, the news of Straw Hat Monkey D. Luffy's debut was included as well, with Morgans making sure to heavily bold the Monkey D initials. Carried by countless news coups, this report would soon spread throughout the entire world. The long stagnant seas were about to arrive. Chapter 9. Limitless Devil Fruits. Meanwhile, completely unaware that his goal had been achieved and that his front-page story was about to spread across the entire world, Rowen was currently using his navigation, white skill to sail with Luffy. Landfall ahead. That's our destination, Shellstown, Rowen announced, comparing the approaching landmass to his sea chart, a smile gracing his lips. After a tedious journey on the open sea, nothing brought more joy than spotting land. Seeing your actual destination, that doubled the happiness. Thanks to Rowen's advanced preparations, this trip, unlike Luffy's previous solo voyages, didn't involve starving for days. Plus, this stretch of the East Blue was remarkably calm. So, for Rowen, equipped with a navigation, white trait, the journey had been relatively smooth. Shishishi. We got here so fast. Guess we really do need a navigator for the Grand Line. Oh, right. And a musician, too. Luffy declared enthusiastically. Before Rowen joined, Luffy's entire journey consisted of aimlessly drifting in the small boat he'd brought from Windmill Village. Experiencing the speed and precision of reaching a destination like this just once had gotten Luffy completely hooked. But since Rowen had mentioned his own navigation skills weren't sufficient for the Grand Line, finding a proper navigator naturally moved up Luffy's priority list. Of course, a musician was still essential. A musician? Huh? Not a bad idea, Rowen chuckled, amused by Luffy's priorities. Luffy's fixation on having a musician was real. Though, in the original story, the Straw Hats wouldn't get one until they confronted the warlord, Gecko Moria. Rowen had already confirmed through his system during their voyage. Although the 7 warlords were nominally affiliated with the world government, they were fundamentally still powerful pirates belonging to the pirate faction. Within the pirate faction, they were the most prominent figures right below the 4 emperors. Taking down a warlord would also trigger Rowen's faction fortune, Apex Gold trait. If that was the case, then confronting Moria would truly kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Moria's current strength was among the lowest of the warlords, practically a free meal delivered right to their doorstep. But before Moria, there was another troublesome warlord they'd have to deal with. The warlord Sir Crocodile, user of the Logia-type Sand fruit, Crocodile. Rowen's eyes narrowed slightly. The Sand fruit, even among Logia types, was easily a top-tier, powerful devil fruit. Acquiring that ability alone, based purely on the fruit's power, guaranteed at least warlord-level strength. Add haki into the mix, and reaching the level of a Yonko commander or admiral candidate would be relatively easy. Of course, Rowen's true ultimate target among Logias was that fruit, the one considered practically invincible even within its own category, the Rumble fruit. Speed, offensive power, destructive range, all rolled into one. A cataclysmic force of nature. A practically perfect devil fruit ability. That was a devil fruit ability Rowen absolutely had to obtain. Through his research into the trait system over the past few days, Rowen had received confirmation. He could possess multiple devil fruit abilities. The system could turn devil fruit powers into traits and allow him to plunder them. Each plundered devil fruit ability existed as a separate, distinct trait. Furthermore, because he was turning others' abilities into traits and equipping/using them, rather than directly eating the fruits, Rowen could wield the plundered devil fruit powers without suffering the standard side effects of eating a fruit, like weakness to seawater or inability to swim. And even if he acquired multiple devil fruit abilities, since each power existed as a separate trait, there was no risk of them conflicting and causing him to explode. Considering Blackbeard's unique body structure, which allowed him to contain multiple devil fruit powers, Rowen's system, which converted powers into individual traits and negated the side effects, was arguably far superior. Theoretically, there was no upper limit to the number of devil fruit abilities he could possess. In that case, the San fruit, the Rumble fruit, the Tremor fruit, the Human fruit, mythical Zoan model, Nika, all these powerful devil fruit abilities, he wanted them all. But before that, Rowen needed to focus on strengthening himself as much as possible. After all, in the future, both Crocodile, user of the San fruit, and Enel, user of the Rumble fruit, were arguably defeated largely due to Luffy's protagonist plot armor. Rowen preferred to hold his destiny firmly in his own hands. Besides, unleashing devil fruit powers required immense stamina and a strong physique as fuel. Therefore, traits that enhanced his physical capabilities were what Rowen needed most right now. And conveniently, apart from Luffy, there was another man in the Straw Hat crew destined to possess one of the most formidable physiques on the seas. The pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. Rowen steered the small boat towards the shore, looking at the town ahead, Shell's Town, a slight smirk playing on his lips. Weird. Why are the people here so scared when they hear the Marine captain's name? While searching for Zoro, Luffy, being his naturally outgoing self, directly asked the townsfolk for directions. But while their fear upon hearing Zoro's name was understandable, they seemed even more terrified when they heard the name of the local Marine captain, Morgan. Marines aren't always the good guys for civilians. A corrupt Marine can cause even more destruction than some pirates, Rowen commented slowly. Knowing the original story, Rowen understood this was because the Marine captain here, Axan Morgan, ruthlessly oppressed the townspeople. For ordinary citizens, pirates were naturally detestable. Most pirates weren't like Luffy and his crew, who were, strictly speaking, more like adventurers chasing a dream. However, aside from a few extremely vicious pirates who engaged in wanton murder and pillaging, most pirates primarily harmed civilians through robbery. After all, the more atrocities they committed, the higher their bounty would climb, attracting stronger marine pursuit and drawing the attention of bounty hunters. While robbery was certainly bad, it was nothing compared to someone like Morgan, who abused his power to exploit the people under his command. Or even worse, scum like Captain Izumi, one of the key figures responsible for allowing Arlong to tyrannize Nami's hometown unchecked. That was a true nightmare. If civilians encountered vicious pirates, they could still seek help from good Marines. But if they encountered corrupt Marines like these, that was a disaster where calling for help was utterly futile. Rowen, having come from Earth, despised such corrupt individuals the most. As they walked, the two eventually arrived at their destination, the marine base of Shellstown. A man was tied to a crucifixion post in the courtyard. The pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. Look, Rowen, that must be the guy. Chapter 10: The Ticket to Becoming a True Monster. Following Luffy, Rowen climbed up the high wall overlooking the marine base courtyard. He looked down at the man tied to the execution post. Though his head was bowed, an almost palpable beast-like aura radiated from him. For Rowen, who possessed the beast strength blue trait, this aura felt even more intense. Truly worthy of being called a demon in human form, even right at the start of his journey. Rowen mentally acknowledged Zoro's presence, then thought inwardly. Check traits. Zoro traits: 3-sword style, deep purple; demonic physique, deep purple; Azura aura, special; conqueror's haki, unawakened; pale gold. Three-sword style, deep purple, a unique sword style utilizing one sword in each hand, with a third held in the mouth for the killing blow. Possesses biting strength greater than an adult hyena. Demonic physique, deep purple, the physique of a demon clad in human skin. No matter how extreme the training, no matter how damaged the muscles and bones become, they can fully recover and grow even stronger. Azura aura, specially unique, demon godlike power. When imbued into techniques, allows them to unleash strength far exceeding conventional limits. Just as I thought, Zoro does have Conqueror's Haki. Rowen nodded, looking at Zoro's Conqueror's Haki, unawakened, pale gold, trait. As one of the Straw Hat Crew's main three combatants in the original story, arguably second only to Luffy, Zoro was meant to parallel the Pirate King's right hand, the Dark King Silver's Rayleigh. And Zoro's lineage wasn't simple either. Otherwise, how could he possess a power like Azura aura, special, capable of manifesting illusions of 3 heads and 6 arms to wield 9 swords? For someone like Zoro, possessing Conqueror's Haki wasn't surprising at all. The Azura aura, special, trait was classified as special because it primarily enhanced the user's own techniques, allowing them to hit harder. Its effectiveness ultimately depended on the user's base strength. However, reading the description for three-sword style, deep purple, specifically the note about having biting strength greater than an adult hyena, Rowen almost couldn't keep a straight face. But it was true. Zoro's finishing blows invariably came from the sword held in his mouth, his Wado Ikemonji, one of the 21 great grade swords. Judging by Zoro's performance in his ultimate attacks, his bite strength was truly astonishing, far beyond what any mere hyena could manage. Currently, Zoro hadn't even mastered the ability to cut steel, Kingo, yet he was still primarily a swordsman relying on brute force. Thus, his three-sword style was currently only at the deep purple level, similar to Luffy's Gomu Gomu fruit before developing powerful techniques like Gear 2nd and 3rd. For Rowen, the most crucial trait Zoro possessed was undoubtedly the demonic physique, deep purple trait. A powerful physique allowing complete recovery and strengthening of muscles and bones, no matter how extreme the training or severe the damage. Rowen's eyes gleamed. No wonder Zoro could endure such extreme training regimens without permanent injury. According to official data, Zoro slept only 3 hours a day, spending every other waking moment engaged in brutal training. Any normal person undertaking such a regimen would likely suffer catastrophic muscle and bone failure, leading to death. Yet Zoro not only survived but thrived, his physique developing to monstrous levels. It was all thanks to this demonic physique, deep purple trait. Furthermore, during the raid on Onigashima, Zoro managed to block, albeit momentarily, a combined attack from 2 emperors, Kaido and Big Mom. That was a joint attack infused with the Conqueror's Haki of 2 peak emperors. While he only held it off for an instant, the fact remained that he survived, merely suffering shattered bones and torn muscles throughout his body. Anyone else present at that time would likely have been obliterated without a trace. And afterwards, following treatment, Zoro's body actually became stronger, allowing him to defeat King the Wildfire, the lead all-star of the Beast Pirates. While Law's Op-Op fruit abilities certainly played a role in his recovery, this demonic physique, deep purple, trait was undeniably a key factor. Even with every bone and muscle fiber shattered, he could recover and grow stronger. This trait absolutely had the potential to become gold tier. It was just that Zoro, having only recently set out to sea, hadn't yet developed his physique to its later, formidable state. That's why, for now, it was ranked deep purple, similar to Luffy's superhuman physique. Crucially, this demonic physique trait didn't conflict with Luffy's superhuman physique trait at all. In fact, they were perfectly complementary. Luffy's superhuman physique allowed him to consume and absorb nutrients from vast amounts of food that would overwhelm ordinary people, strengthening his body. Zoro's demonic physique allowed for limitless extreme training, strengthening muscles and bones through cycles of damage and repair. With the massive nutritional support provided by the superhuman physique, the recovery process enabled by the demonic physique could potentially be accelerated even further. And those abundant nutrients could fuel even more intense, high-load training facilitated by the demonic physique. Combining these two traits would effectively merge the greatest physical advantages of both Luffy and Zoro into one body. In terms of sheer potential, wouldn't that rival even the monstrous physique of Kaido? No. In terms of potential alone, it might even be comparable to the ultimate natural-born monster, whose physical stats were arguably top-tier from birth. The Emperor Big Mom. While Big Mom, Charlotte Lin Lin, might have ranked lower among the emperors in terms of overall combat performance, due to her complacency, obsession with tea parties and having children, and abysmal battle IQ. Her base physical stats were undeniably among the most terrifying in the world. As a child, relying solely on her innate monstrous physique, she could severely injure adult giants. Her natural durability even surpassed that of Kaido after eating the fish fruit model, Azure Dragon, a top-tier mythical Zoan. While the superhuman physique and demonic physique traits individually couldn't compare to Lin Lin's innate monstrousness, if combined, their potential for limitless growth might actually allow one to eventually rival that natural-born freak of nature. Combining these two traits, it was practically a passport to becoming a true monster. Rowen's eyes shone with intense desire. This trait, I absolutely must obtain it. Of course, the method was simple. Get Luffy to recruit Zoro onto the crew. That would naturally allow Rowen to start equipping Zoro's traits. Hey, you too. Just then, Zoro, who had been the object of Rowen and Luffy's scrutiny, slowly lifted his bowed head, revealing a pair of eyes as fierce as a wild beast's. You're annoying, Zoro stated. Chapter 11. An absolute man of steel. Shishishi. He's got personality. If we just untie the ropes, we can let him go, right? Luffy grinned, completely unfazed by Zoro's intense, beast-like stare. Having been frequently tossed into packs of wild beasts for training by his unreliable Grandpa Garp since childhood, Luffy was all too familiar with that kind of gaze. Those are the eyes of a wild animal. In fact, Zoro's glare was even sharper than those of the beasts he remembered. Although Luffy hadn't witnessed Zoro's strength yet, just based on that intense gaze, his instincts told him Zoro was strong. Thump! Just then, a ladder appeared against the wall. A little girl climbed up and held a finger to her lips, signaling cutely at Rowen and Luffy. Shoo! The little girl gestured for caution, then hopped down from the wall and ran toward Zoro. HM? What is it? Zoro asked, his fierce eyes softening considerably as he looked at the approaching girl. His tone, though no longer icy, was still tinged with impatience. Big brother, you must be hungry, right? I brought rice balls, the little girl said, offering a bright smile. She held a carefully wrapped bundle of rice balls close to her chest. It's my first time making them, but I put my heart into it. Kid, you want to die? Get lost, Zoro replied instantly, his expression unchanging even at the sight of food, despite having had nothing to eat or drink for 20 days. His harsh words were meant to protect her, to avoid implicating her. Even if you don't want to involve the girl, you don't need to push her away like that. A calm voice interjected. Who the hell are you? I told you already, you're annoying, Zoro snapped, his face hardening as he watched Rowen jump down from the wall. This is a child's heartfelt gesture. A child's sincerity is more precious than gold, Rowen said, gently patting the little girl's head reassuringly as she looked crestfallen that Zoro wouldn't eat her rice balls. Rowen definitely didn't want this sweet girl's kindness trampled by that scumbag Helmeppo. Shishishi. Well said, Rowen, Luffy declared, hopping down from the wall to join Rowen. Although he had wanted to observe Zoro a bit longer. After all, Luffy's standards for crewmates went beyond just strength. Since his Nakama had decided to step in, Luffy wouldn't just stand by and watch. Luffy would always fully support his comrades' decisions. You're Zoro, right? Luffy asked, grinning at the tied-up swordsman. Yeah, and who are you guys? Zoro asked, his icy demeanor thawing slightly after hearing Rowen's words. though his tone remained unfriendly. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who's going to be king of the pirates," Luffy declared proudly, pointing at himself with a grin. "Rowen, Luffy's comrade," Rowen added, a slight smile playing on his lips. "King of the pirates? Are you an idiot?" Zoro deadpanned, his eyebrow twitching as he looked at Luffy. "But Rowen, what did you mean? Why did you say Zoro didn't want to involve the little girl?" Luffy asked curiously. "Simple. Judging by how the townspeople react to the Marines here, the local Marine captain can't be any good. And the name Pirate Hunter Zoro is pretty famous throughout the East Blue right now. As a renowned bounty hunter, he wouldn't be tied up here unless there was a specific reason," Rowen explained smoothly. While he couldn't reveal he knew the plot, because he was a transmigrator, knowing the plot made it easy to deduce a logical explanation based on the current situation. Rowen then turned to the little girl. "But why don't you tell us the details? Since you risked coming here to bring him food, this must involve you somehow, right?" Rowen asked gently. "Big brother, my name is Rika." The girl introduced herself politely, then proceeded to explain what had happened. The son of the local Marine, Captain Morgan, Helmeppo, frequently paraded around town with his so-called pet, a vicious dog. At the restaurant Rika and her mother ran to make a living, the dog started harassing customers and causing chaos. Rika bravely tried to stop it, which drew Helmeppo's ire. Zoro intervened, easily dealing with Helmeppo and his dog. But Helmeppo threatened to use his father's authority to have everyone present executed. Therefore, Zoro made a deal with Helmeppo. He would allow himself to be tied up here for a month without food or water. If he survived, Rika and the others would be spared. Today marked the 20th day. "Wow, you're amazing. If I went more than 3 days without eating, I'd definitely starve to death," Luffy exclaimed. After hearing the story, he had already decided he wanted Zoro to join his crew. "My willpower is completely different from yours. I will survive," Zoro declared with a determined grin. "Definitely a man of steel. It'd be a waste for him to die here," Rowen said appreciatively. When it came to sheer willpower, Zoro was absolutely top class. Later in the story, Zoro would endure the full measure of pain extracted from Luffy by Kuma's pawpaw fruit, suffering horrific injuries and massive blood loss. And when questioned by Sanji, he would deliver the iconic line, "Nothing happened. Die here? What are you talking about? I only have 10 days left to fulfill the agreement. I will survive," Zoro retorted coldly, assuming Rowen doubted his ability to last the final 10 days. "I'm not questioning whether you can survive. I'm questioning whether you really think trash like him, who abuses his father's power to oppress civilians, will actually honor his promise to you," Rowen stated calmly. "Ha ha ha, he's right." Just then, an obnoxious laugh echoed through the courtyard. A young man, clearly dressed like a spoiled brat relying on daddy's influence, swaggered towards them, flanked by 2 Marine soldiers. "Helmeppo," Zoro muttered, realization dawning in his eyes, which turned exceptionally cold. "I was originally planning to tell you tomorrow, right before your execution. But since someone already figured it out, executing you today works just fine too," Helmeppo sneered, laughing mockingly at Zoro. "You bastard," Zoro growled, his eye twitching. "Ha ha, the famous pirate hunter dying by my hand. My name, Helmeppo, will surely spread far and wide across the seas now." "Ha ha ha," Helmeppo gloated arrogantly. Whoosh! Smack! While Helmeppo was lost in his arrogant laughter, an elongated fist shot out and slammed squarely into his obnoxious face, sending him flying. "What a scumbag," Luffy commented coldly, retracting his rubber arm after punching Helmeppo. What the hell are you?" Zoro stared, dumbfounded, at the completely inhuman feat he had just witnessed. Luffy ate the Gomu Gomu fruit. "He's a rubber man," Rowen explained with a Chapter 12, Upgradable Traits. "Gomu Gomu fruit? Rubber man?" Zoro stared at Luffy in disbelief. "Devil fruits, things like that actually existed? You bastard! How dare you hit me? My dad will kill you!" Helmeppo shrieked, clutching his rapidly swelling face where Luffy had punched him. Pow! 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 Luffy's response was another barrage of punches. Stop! Stop it. If you keep hitting him, you'll really get yourselves killed. The two nearby Marine soldiers, initially stunned by Luffy's rubber abilities, snapped back to reality as Helmeppo neared unconsciousness. They moved to intervene. Could you please not interfere with our captain's business? Rowen asked calmly, the crimson-black light flickering faintly in his eyes. VMM. The next moment, an invisible wave washed over the two Marines. Their eyes rolled back, and they instantly collapsed, unconscious. What was that? Zoro watched, stunned. This man named Rowen merely narrowed his eyes, and Zoro's instinct screamed as a terrifying power surged from him, instantly knocking the two soldiers out cold. Having never witnessed such power before, Zoro was utterly incredulous. That's called conqueror's haki. The weak can't maintain consciousness under its pressure, Rowen explained with a faint smile, the crimson-black light receding from his eyes. Conqueror's haki, Zoro murmured the unfamiliar term. Since setting out, he'd become a bounty hunter out of necessity, needing money to survive, trading pirates for cash. His formidable strength had earned him the title Pirate Hunter, but he'd never encountered powers as bizarre as these before. Whether it was Luffy's rubber abilities or this man Rowen's power, the sea truly is vast. Much better. That scumbag needed a beating. Luffy sighed contentedly, looking at the now unconscious Helmeppo. Check traits. Rowen thought inwardly, focusing on the knocked-out Helmeppo. Helmeppo trait. Reform boost, pale purple. Reform boost, pale purple can undergo a redemption arc. Upon redemption, strength increases. Even weaklings like him has a pale purple trait, and this scumbag had used his father's power to torment countless civilians. Yet he could inexplicably get redeemed and become stronger? The original author's logic was baffling sometimes. But even though it's a pale purple trait, it's completely useless to me. Just as Rowen had that thought, another notification appeared. Traits of purple tier or higher can be converted into fixed upgrade materials. Upgrade materials can be used to enhance existing equipped traits. Reading the screen, Rowen confirmed the details, a slight smile touching his lips. So that's how the system's upgrade function works. Waste not, want not, I suppose. Plunder. Helmeppo's trait was instantly absorbed by Rowen. Convert. Rowen focused on the reformed boost, pale purple, trait. Conversion complete. Current quantity of potential type pale purple upgrade materials. 1. Having used the function, Rowen now fully understood. Basically, he could convert unwanted traits into upgrade tools to enhance the traits he did want. However, white and blue tier traits couldn't be used for upgrades. Also, only traits fully plundered could be converted. Traits equipped from crewmates, being more like mirrored copies, couldn't be used as upgrade materials, even though Rowen could use them freely without restriction once fully equipped. Only traits of pale purple tier or higher, obtained through direct plunder, could serve as upgrade fuel for Rowen's own traits. Combat-related traits were categorized as either potential type or strength type. For example, the faction fortune, Apex Gold, plundered from Koby, was a potential type trait. Luffy's Sun God, Apex Gold, was also potential type. Rowen's already awakened Conqueror's Haki, Pale Gold, which could be directly used in combat, was a strength type trait. Traits like Luffy's superhuman physique, Deep Purple, and Zoro's demonic physique, Deep Purple, were also strength type. 4 strength type traits related to physical prowess, like physique. The displayed tier represented the current level of power the owner could exert. It didn't indicate the trait's ultimate potential ceiling. The same applied to combat skill traits like Zoro's 3-sword style, Deep Purple, and Luffy's Goma Goma fruit, Deep Purple. Potential type upgrade materials could only upgrade other potential type traits, not strength type traits. Seeing this limitation, Rowen felt a slight pang of disappointment. If direct upgrading were possible, he might have considered using the faction fortune, Apex Gold, to boost his Conqueror's Haki. While faction fortune, Apex Gold, had immense potential, it still paled in comparison to a fully mastered Conqueror's Haki, Infusion, Apex Gold, that represented true Emperor/Admiral level power. Still, While disappointing, the limitation made sense. Potential was just potential, not actual strength. Being able to directly convert potential into overwhelming power would be like creating something from nothing, violating fundamental laws of reality. This realization deepened Rowen's sense of being in a real world. Even with his powerful system, basic principles still applied. To truly reach the pinnacle of this world, the system merely provided the ticket. Becoming the strongest ultimately depended on his own efforts. Rowen smirked slightly. Good. That makes it interesting. Let's see just how far I can go. Kingly disposition increased. Conqueror's hockey intensity increased. Another notification flashed. Just as I suspected, the strength of Conqueror's hockey is tied to that concept of kingly disposition from the story. Rowen noted this inwardly. It confirmed the correctness of his decision to make a high-profile debut and claim the Sky Sovereign epithet. In the One Piece world, only by building a fearsome reputation, using the blood and failures of enemies as nourishment, could one truly stand at the absolute top. Looks like I'll need to be even more high-profile in the future. Get that bounty nice and high. Anyway, with Luffy's connections backing him, he didn't need to worry too much about attracting unbeatable enemies prematurely. Rowen resolved his future course. Having clarified his path, Rowen continued examining the upgrade function. It required 10 upgrade materials of the same tier to raise a trait by 1 sublevel. For instance, the potential type pale purple material obtained from Helmeppo. 10 of these could upgrade another potential type pale purple trait to potential type deep purple. Compared to others who had to train slowly over time, this method was incredibly fast. Rowen was quite satisfied. From now on, even useless traits of purple tier or higher could serve a significant purpose. And without his most valuable, albeit pathetic, pale purple trait, Helmeppo was now, "You guys are pirates, right? Why are you getting involved in this mess?" Zoro asked at that moment, clearly confused. "When you see scum like that, you gotta punch him," Luffy declared matter-of-factly with a grin, then looked straight at Zoro. "Hey you, wanna be my nakama?" Luffy extended the invitation. "Why would I want to become a villain?" Zoro retorted, baffled by Luffy's logic. "But I've already decided you're going to be my nakama," Luffy stated with absolute certainty. "Hey, will you listen when someone's talking?" Zoro snapped. "But if you don't agree, you'll just die here, right? A man like you must have ambitions you need to fulfill. Are you really content to die here?" Rowen interjected calmly. Zoro fell silent instantly. Die here? How could he possibly be content with that? If he were, how could he have endured 20 days without food through sheer willpower? To become the world's greatest swordsman, to make his name echo even in the heavens. That was his promise to his deceased childhood friend, Kuna. It was Zoro's ambition. "Oh yeah, you're a swordsman, right? Where are your swords?" Luffy suddenly asked. "That guy took them," Zoro replied, glancing towards the unconscious Helmeppo. "Huh, then I'll go get your swords back for you. If you want them back, you gotta be my nakama." Luffy grinned, then grabbed the unconscious Helmeppo and started dragging him away. "Hey, wake up. Where's Zoro's swords? If you don't tell me, I'll beat you up some more," Luffy yelled, slapping Helmeppo's face. "Luffy, the marine base is that way," Rowen called out, pointing in the opposite direction of where Luffy was heading. "Oh, right. Thanks, Rowen." Luffy quickly changed direction and dashed off again. "That guy, he really doesn't listen to anyone," Zoro muttered, his eyebrow twitching as he watched Luffy disappear. "And you actually acknowledge him as your captain?" Zoro asked, looking at Rowen, who had stayed behind. "Luffy might seem like an airhead most of the time, but he's incredibly reliable when it counts," Rowen replied with a smile, then turned to Rika. "You should head home now, Rika. Things are about to get chaotic here," Rowen said gently. But Rika hesitated, looking down at the now slightly cooled rice balls in her hands. "Give them here," Zoro suddenly said. Rika blinked. Then her small face broke into a radiant smile. "Here you go, big brother." Watching Zoro hungrily devour the rice balls she made, Rika's smile grew even brighter. "Delicious. I'm full." Zoro said after swallowing the last bite, a faint smile on his face. I'm so happy. Thank you, big brother. Rika beamed, then looked towards Rowen, understanding that it was because of him that Zoro had eaten her food. See, isn't a child's sincerity more precious than gold? Rowen smiled, observing the scene. Yeah, Zoro admitted, a genuine smile gracing his own features. Boom! Just then, a massive